Alderman Moore, Alderman French, Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Green,
Here.
Chairman Conway.
Present.
5 present, you have a quorum.
Good morning, Madam Clerk, members of the committee. Board Bill number 38, President Reed asked just to not take any action on it this morning, so we're not going to do that bill. He'll bring that back next session to us. Next, I'll recognize Jim Garabaglia from the Comptroller's Office on Board Bill number 219.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and members of the committee. As Chairman said, this is Board Bill number 219, which is a sale of city property. This piece of property was acquired along with 22 others from the police department when they joined us. And we just finalized the transfers because of the different covenants that were involved in some of the borrowings that the police department had made. But since this one is now ours, it has been determined that for a lot of reasons, development being one of them, that, and the fact that it is no longer the size necessary for the operations that will be conducted there, and that is, this is where the police department stores their SWAT equipment, all their vehicles. Bomb and arson folks are domiciled there. There's also some talk about needing additional rooms to move auto theft division, along with some other ancillary pieces that are kind of just dangling out there. Bring them all together in one facility. And so last summer we brought a board bill before the Board of Aldermen that purchased a building at 2159 South 59th, which is just off of the intersection of Wilson and 59th Street. And that's where we will be relocating everything that's currently at 4213 Gibson. The purchase price from JARUBA Corporation is $375,000. The principal in JARUBA Corporation is a gentleman named Jack Baumstock, and Jack is the former owner of the chemical company that is immediately adjacent to this facility. He has been bought out, and he is looking to do development in the 17th Ward, and he's been working with the neighborhood association to that end, and this will be his first venture in that regard. This building is basically an office warehouse building with a parking lot in the front of it. They have some plans. I'm sorry there isn't someone from the neighborhood association here to speak to it, but in the interim, the neighborhood association has tentatively, depending on the approval of this board bill, entered into a tentative lease with the new owner for all the parking area to handle the large crowds of patrons for the restaurants and other amenities along Manchester in the Grove district there. So the purchase price is $375. We've done an appraisal. The appraisal is $400. The one thing that we agreed with the prospective buyer is that some of the comps that got us an appraised value of $400,000 were warehouses that had full dock facilities to load and unload. This building does not, and would take some significant renovations to put docks into this building, which if he found the right tenant, he'd be happy to do. So there is a slight discount from the appraised value for that purchase. So I guess that's about it. That's about all I know, aside from some information that the Alderman could probably have provided regarding the future plans for the Grove District.
All right. Are there any questions on Board Bill number 219?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just want to, thank you, Chairman. I just want to make sure I understand this. So what we're doing is that we're consolidating.
We're consolidating, and also we're going to have more room, because this building will also be where the property and evidence room, which is currently still at the existing, the former police headquarters, that function, which is, as you may imagine, needs to be in an extremely secure environment, needs to be, it needs to come out of there so that we can develop the old police headquarters. That's the only function that's still there. So the majority of this building at 2150 South 59th will be for that. And then we also have room, because it's a larger building, for SWAT, bomb and arson, potential for auto theft, and I think there's a couple little small functions that can also go in there. But it's got a nice, I think it's about a 3,500 square foot office, which is going to fit nicely for the auto theft division at some
There's
point.
Joe.
And here we go.
So we're purchasing this building.
We have already purchased 59th Street. It's a lease purchase, actually.
Okay.
And we are in it, and we'll very shortly, pending the approval of this board bill, move everything out of Gibson to 59th Street.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Alderman Bakar.
So, I mean, and I'm fine with it, but I'm just curious, what is that, JARUBA Corporation? What is their plans for the building?
I'm not sure. Alderman, you've been speaking with the neighborhood association. What is Jack, do you know any of his immediate plans?
Yeah, there's no immediate plans. The building, it's, I don't know if we have a site plan here or not, but the building is somewhat awkwardly located. The previous owner of the building was an owner of a business called Archway Chemical. And he did not, the building actually is kind of connected to another building, so they separated them. And he had sold that to the police department. You got a picture of it there?
I'm looking. I should have brought that, but I did not, I don't believe.
And we created kind of a little bit of a compound down there about 25 years ago for them. And
It's not very good, but that's...
and so there's the main, the build.
Can you pass it this
That's
way?
okay, Alderman.
Yeah, the building on Manchester, which has the frontage and access to Manchester.
We just
Here,
sent
I'm
this
going to be
around.
very informal here and walk and show this to everyone because it's kind of so the building is somewhat separated. So this is Manchester here, and he owns and continues to own this portion of the building. And then this back portion, I guess, which is actually I don't know if it's a separate building or not, but that is the building that the police had bought and now are selling back to him. We closed this street years ago and kind of converted that hall into one big parking lot to support those buildings. When he sold it to the police department, he retained ownership of the Manchester frontage.
Right.
So at some point, this building is a Butler building, which is, you know, a relatively inexpensive building, and this site is a very large site, which would at some point in the future present a real development opportunity along Manchester, because you would have all of this frontage on Manchester. But he owns the strategic piece here. He has subsequently sold his business for, believe it or not, $125 million, and is somewhat at the point in his life where he's clipping coupons, and he's joined our SID board over there, and has really taken an interest in the neighborhood, and would like to be involved, I think, in some of the development over there. Because he had the strategic piece and there wasn't really much parking associated with that, he wanted to buy it. We had other interest from other people who may have paid more, but then we would have had the property under two different ownerships, and you wouldn't have been able to consolidate the site. So we thought that the best solution was to go ahead and have it appraised, and then I think we sold it right at the appraised value.
Just under
the appraised value.
and the reason for that being that in the appraisal, the comps were other properties that had finished dock space, and this property does not. So we went ahead and agreed with the purchaser that if he had to put in docks, that would be significantly more expensive.
Is he the same guy who sold it to the police department?
It is.
Just curious, and if you don't have the answer, it's fine. What did the police department pay for the building 20, was it 20 years ago?
It was 20 years ago. I don't know that for sure, Alderman. I could get that number, though.
Well, no, just a most curious question, but that's okay.
It was less than what we sold it to him back for, though. He
So-
didn't expect to get it for the same amount of money, but it is more than what he sold it. That's all the comment he made was, well, that's more than I paid for, that I sold it for.
Yeah, he offered to buy it for what he paid for it, and we said, that would not hold up to public scrutiny.
Right.
And we said that.
No, it's the appraised value, it makes sense.
The problem is the business, when he sold his business, he retained the real estate interest, but the business that, the business that acquired his still has a lease on the building that's along the Manchester frontage. So he is not in a position right now where he could, where it would make sense to tear it,
it's okay.
to consolidate the site and everything. So you always are a little hesitant not to put something on the market, but I talked it over with Jim, and I think the comptroller's office, we both agreed that I think it made most sense to try to have the site consolidated, because later on, somebody would come by and probably,
Better.
have to overpay later on, and of course, what would that end up doing? We'd have to provide more incentives, in the way of TIF or tax abatement or something else, so, and which we're trying to scale back on.
No, I was fine, I just was curious, but no, that's fine, thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, just a comment. So in other words, with the new facility on South 59th Street, it's larger and it has more parking.
Parking is not as large a concern because the SWAT, bomb and arson, and some of those people will only go to that facility when there's a need to be there. The parking area itself is basically street parking with a little bit of parking just outside the building. So it actually has less parking, but it's a much larger facility, with the intent being for the evidence and property room, which will be accepting case-related information and material 6 days a week. So there will be a presence, but not a large presence on an ongoing basis. There may be more of a presence if indeed the auto theft division is actually relocated there as well. But generally speaking, we don't see a large presence, police presence there on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. No other questions? Therefore, I move that we pass Board Bill number 219 on a committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Board Bill number 219 come out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Cruzen, Alderwoman Behringer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman French. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Carter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Green.
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
7 aye votes do pass.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you all very much.
Then Alderman Vaccaro just wanted to say something for a minute about the license collector bill.
Yeah. I know that, I went down along with Michael from Lewis's office. And, one of the big problems that she has now, I brought the one board bill, which didn't seem that appealing to everybody, but she's also gonna get everybody information. But the one thing, the biggest problem she has, and she pulled 2% of the licenses that range in the $200 range, which is the 1 to 10 person or 1 to 6 person. Out of that, there's roughly $4 million that has not been collected. And her staff has been cut over the years from 50 people down to 32 or 31. And so she asked, and I'm going to try to figure out different ways. Right now, she gets to keep between 2 and 4% of a different category of everything she takes in, but that does not really allow her enough to keep her, to have any enforcement. She has 2 enforcement people.
Well, the
She
key
has
thing
no-
is, Alderman, on those unpaid small business licenses, she got to at least do a random sample and tell me what percent are even in business. I mean, she should know what that answer is before she.
Well, no, she had it down there, but I'm just saying the problems that she has in her office, and I'll take as much input as anybody can give me. We have to figure out how to get her office more money so she can hire more of a staff, because there's a lot of things that should be happening in that office, and there's not any one of us that could be elected to that office and do a better job without money to run the office. So maybe my first bill wasn't the answer, but
Okay, just briefly, as the clerk said, I mean, we're not having, quote, a committee discussion, because it's not, we didn't put it on our agenda. So will it go ahead and adjourn the meeting and
Okay.
just talk generally, if you like. But the bottom line is, she's gonna have to go back and
oh, it's,
We need to adjourn.
come up with the data and bring the bill in next
so
session.
meeting's adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
Okay.